Hello everyone, this is Joanna the Medium. Thank you so much for coming back. These are going to be your messages for the month of November 2018. I want to give you a couple of things before we move on to the messages. First and foremost, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to do this. My intention is always to give you helpful information that will allow you to know yourself deeply. So whether it is something to think about or something that will allow you to do things differently, or I give you a suggestion or idea, Spirit is here to help you to understand yourself better so that you can have freedom and more choices. Whatever signs you're listening to, whichever is your sign, sometimes you'll be guided to see a sign that doesn't belong to you, and you will find that the information there also applies to you. The way I work with my team is I try to bring information that is of most relevance to everyone in all life, including practical knowledge and practical advice. What I'm trying to say here is listen to your other signs as well as signs you normally wouldn't listen to but you are drawn to. Also, this month, for some reason, I recorded two messages for Gemini. I don't know how I did it. Never have done it before in the last 2.5, 3 years. And I've done them on the same day. It's almost as if I had amnesia. So you will notice that there is a Gemini reading 1 and Gemini message 2, video 1 and video 2. Listen to both. For some of you, both will apply. For some of you, one will apply over the other. I was asked, what do I do with this now? And the suggestion was given to me that I release both of them. So if you're a Gemini, consider this as a bonus month for you and see which one applies to you, perhaps both. And of course, for any messages that you are looking for, or any inside information on your personal life, these messages are general. You're welcome to connect with me. That information is down below for you. More than anything, I thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing and for sharing. I always am so grateful to be able to do this for you, and it is what brings me a great joy. So thank you so much. If you would like to comment how these messages apply to you, I would love to read them. I wish you best of luck. Take care of yourself and see you soon. Let's move on. Hello, beautiful Aries. These are going to be your messages for the month of November 2015. I'm actually having a bit of a, can I say, difficulty feeling these messages here. So let me just tune in and see what messages Spirit wants you guys to have for November. I hear the words stop procrastinating, and then I'm seeing somebody looking at the clock as if to say it is time, go on or move on. This will be job related for some of you. For some of you, it's going to be conditions you are in that are uncomfortable to various levels, very uncomfortable, little uncomfortable, whatever it is in your life that's causing you some even slight discomfort, emotionally and intellectually speaking. I also hear that for those of you who this means anything, you have forgotten about yourself a long time ago. There is no point in trying to pretend it isn't so. And the feeling I'm getting from this is you feel like you're lost in a shuffle of life. You have lost yourself in a shuffle of life, and you are now going through the motions just to be there. Whatever it is that I am referring to for you, it is time to face the music. The time has come where changes must be made in order for you to feel the fulfillment you want to reach. Whatever fulfillment means to you and whatever fulfillment you're after at this particular time, whether it is job related, whether it is relationship related, whether it's situational, the way you feel about yourself, it's time to move on from these circumstances or from stagnation. For some of you, I feel like life has been gently pushing you forward. And I say gently, I mean, life is, I kind of feel like it's kind of telling you, come on, come on, come on. There's a message for those of you who feel like you are being pushed by life through towards a certain situation, or pushed away from a situation, or pushed towards something new. And then I hear the word stop stagnating. So this is going to apply to various people in various ways. I try to give my messages in a way that benefits anyone who's listening. So in terms of numbers, I am being shown the number 9, which always to me represents a time of letting go. I also see the light bulb going off, as in the light being turned off. The show is over. And that is an analogy. It's meant to mean something to you. To me, it symbolizes something is done. Something is done. It's as you've gone to a movie theater, you've watched a movie, you ate the popcorn, movie has ended, you talked to somebody, you left the theater, and once everybody is gone, the theater shuts the light down. In other words, it's closed for business. And this is situation, this is a metaphor, so it's going to mean something for those of you who are meant to hear it. The next, the cards I have several cards. I have 2 animal cards that represent either strength or weakness, depending on what I feel. You have Starfish and you have the mouse. Both of these energies are very outwardly oriented. In other words, both of these energy tell me that you have forgotten why you do things, and you have forgotten your purpose. For many of you, you have forgotten who you are, and you've gotten used to being a certain way. Now you're just existing. So this is a big statement, yes. But in other words, I'm talking to those of you who feel lost. You feel lost in a relationship. You feel lost in life. You feel lost in a job. You feel lost. You know what that feeling is. So when it comes to the Starfish, the message here is, here's the message. Number 1, I hear the word be inspired by your curiosity. So if you are someone who is stuck and you are not curious about anything in life, you'll find yourself constantly walking in circles, because the purpose of why you're living or existing isn't there. Therefore, you feel like you're going in circles. You'll feel like you don't have any purpose. And when we don't have any purpose, we don't feel good. That's just the way it is. We stagnate. We start to feel like we don't belong. We feel a whole bunch of things that are not great. Curiosity is about becoming aware of what interests you. In other words, if you are one of those individuals that is stuck in some area, start first with finding yourself something you like to do, something you like about someone. If this is in a relationship, find something that inspires you to be more than who you are today. In other words, give yourself reasons to live life fully. Why is it important? Because if we don't have reasons, we don't have purpose. If we don't have purpose, our energy just exists. For those of you who, particularly around work, relationships too, but particularly around work, if you have been doing things for the purpose of impressing others, or if you are someone who needs to impress others because you need to belong, you need to feel loved. In other words, if you have been paying more attention to others and also paying more attention to the physical things, the connections, the status, money. If you have been paying more attention to those outwardly things that define you in a certain way. So, you have to have long hair because that means that you're more attractive. You have to drive a nice car because that means that, it means that you're successful. Whatever it is for you, if you have been focusing on outside for fulfillment, it's time to change directions. In other words, it's time to be inwardly focused rather than outwardly focused. This message is a warning for those of you who spend much time figuring out what must I do, what must I say, what must I accomplish in order to feel good. Chances are it's going to be very difficult for you to get there, because the moment you get there, you realize, oh darn, that's not what it is. So if you are someone who strives for attainment, or to attain, or to feed the ego, or to please others, or you are superficially connected to life, you may feel like your life has no meaning. So it's time to focus inside. Find that spark that ignites you. The mouse energy is where we get so busy with doing things that we don't even know why we do it. We lose our perspective. We lose ourselves. So the mouse energy is a bit of a warning, very similar message. If you have been running around circles, keeping yourself busy with things that ultimately at the end of the day don't bring you much fulfillment, and as a matter of fact, you've lost yourself in this shuffle, it's time to shift. It's time to change your direction. It's time to shift where you're looking. It's time to shift your focus. Which brings me to my next card that symbolizes your responsibility. What is your responsibility in the month of November? And it's not just month of November. This is going to be any time, but it is being highlighted in the month of November. Your responsibility is the goblins. The goblins to me represents a message of shadows. 5 is number of changes. 5 is also May. For whatever reason, May comes up, so maybe May is somehow important to you. But this message is about you facing your fears, you facing negativity, particularly negativity. If you are someone who is wound up fairly easily when you hear gossip or negative comments or judgments or unfairness, or not unfairness maybe, but if you get easily riled up and get caught up in a negativity, you have to face your own gremlins or goblins. You have to face some facts inside of you that keep you continually amused with those activities. This is also a message that says to me, don't watch out for the neighbors, watch out for yourself. And the message here is around judgment. So there's an idea around judgment that's being presented. If you are someone who is highly judgmental of yourself, you will find yourself being highly judgmental of others. And judgments in a negative form creates separation, it creates division, it does not create unity. And I feel many of you are feeling separate. Can I say separate? How are they feeling? Different, like you don't belong, like you're not from this planet, alien, like somehow you're very drastically different than others. If you have judgments around people that ultimately separates you from another, you need to look at the reasons why. It's very important. Why is this so important in May? So the next 2 cards are about what is it that you need to face? Spiritual sovereignty. Not great with that word. This is to me about realizing yourself fully from inside out versus outside in. And the message here is, when you redefine your own concept of you, you will begin living your life fully. In other words, what are you aligned with? What are you aligning yourself with? What ideologies or ideas you align yourself with that don't necessarily give you what you want. I'm supposed to give you an example. For example, if you are someone who believes that a certain race of people are bad people, and that's just a very drastic example to show you what this means. If you are one of those individuals, then you are in this example creating a separation between you and another from a different race. And that separation isn't based on love. That separation is usually based on some form of negative connection towards that particular race. So if this is something that you believe, that another race, as an example of people, is people who are not, you're better than them, or they're not as good as you, you need to ask yourself the question, why do I believe this in the first place? Now, this is a drastic example. It's probably nobody's going to meet that criteria. At least I hope not. But I wanted to illustrate it in a very, very drastic way so that you guys can see it as in black and white. The other message of this card is, who do you think you are currently, and who are you trying to be? Now that's very interesting, because a lot of times we try to be somebody's in order to gain respect, gain value, gain love, gain security, gain whatever it is. I think a lot of people do it at certain points in their lives, but not everybody becomes stuck in it forever. So if you are someone who is trying to be somebody all the time, then that is stemming from you having a negative view of yourself. Why? Because if you didn't have a negative view of yourself, you wouldn't be trying to be anybody other than you. So there is something obviously that you are denying of yourself, or you are rejecting of yourself for the purpose of being a better person. So if you are someone who constantly strives to please other people, that's another example of trying to be somebody. Another message with this is, let me just feel into it. Be patient with yourself. Move slowly. Change takes time. Facing our gremlins or goblins isn't particularly easy nor overly enjoyable, unless you're me and I do it on somebody else. So you have to have some patience with yourself in order to come to certain conclusions. In other words, there is no point in denying certain virtues you hold dearly. There's no point in denying that if you are wanting to have a better change in your life. In other words, if you're wanting to make a positive change, if you want some things to be better, if you want to feel better, if you want to whatever, you need to take a look at what's inside of you that is currently preventing that from happening. Or how are you holding yourself back? A lot of it will have to do with rejection, a form of self-rejection. When we reject ourselves, we will sabotage the very things that we want. And I'm asking the questions why? Because why is completely contradictory to the other. So energetically speaking, it doesn't match. And your belief system will always win. In other words, you'll create scenarios you don't want for the most part. Another card you have is a card of blind enthusiasm. And to me, when I saw this card, it felt to me, I'm trying to see how to say it. This is it's hard for me to say this. It's a message of selfishness. That's the best way that I can describe it without, in as delicate way as I can. So, it's hard for me to say if you are selfish, but I'm going to say it. If you have done some things in the past where you can look back and say to yourself, I've used people in order to what I want. it's important for you to come to that realization. It's very hard for me to talk about this because it's kind of awkward. But if that is the case with you, there is no harm in it. There's nothing good or bad. You're not going to have any conversation with anybody other than you. So it's important that you do this for yourself. It's form of self-analysis where you are choosing to be responsible for your life and your happiness, and therefore you need to become responsible on all areas, including owning some stuff from the past. A lot of it is to do with the fact that some of you hold guilt. You hold guilt about something that you've done, something you didn't do, something that happened, and you maybe had control over it, or maybe you didn't. If you are holding yourself responsible for something in the past that perhaps you might have done different now, it's really important for you to express that to yourself as a knowing, as a not validation. It's important for you to allow yourself to feel that, but it's also important for you to forgive yourself for it. That's hugely important. Perhaps if you feel guilty, you have a mechanism inside of you that is of self-punishment like. And one form of self-punishment is, for example, be in situations where you feel you have no choices and you feel you have no control. And perhaps that form of punishment comes from the fact that somewhere in your past you have done things to other people that perhaps they felt that way, and now that you feel guilty, you're subconsciously punishing yourself for it by putting yourself in situations where you feel that way. So that's an interesting twist. I feel some of you will resonate with this. I don't feel it's going to be most of you, but I feel some of you will very, very strongly resonate with this. Even if you've done something when you were 17 and it maybe was something that was not very pleasant, and if you look back at it, you'd say, yeah, I'd change it. It's important to let that go. I have no idea who I'm talking to, but I feel whoever I'm talking to is feeling on the hook, and you don't even know why it exists that way. So for some of you, take this into consideration and see how that applies to you. Do some internal digging. I asked for one more thing. You have a message of commitment, and this is about understanding what you are committing yourself to. So yes, this commitment is a traditional commitment, as it's time to commit to a new project. Some of you will become engaged. Some of you, and if you are becoming engaged, or if you are entering into a commitment, then it's really absolutely necessary for you to face your gremlins, because you want to go into it with a clean slate. But more than anything, this is, what are you choosing to commit yourself to going forward? Example, do you continue to commit to other people to define who you are? Or do you turn that around and you instead commit to yourself in creating the person you want to be inside? That's one way of saying it. Another way, another message that comes in is, if you have held yourself responsible for something for a long time, like the example I had earlier, do you choose to commit to that cause? Or do you choose to forgive yourself and move on? So that's another form of commitment. Committing ourselves to doing something is another form of commitment. Being in an unhealthy relationship is a form of unhealthy commitment. If you are continually being there, you are somehow committed to it for whatever reason. It gives you something in return. Usually that's something you won't think about too quickly, but it is something that you are receiving. Is there anything else I want to say about this? When it comes to you committing to your own progress, your own evolution, it is time to commit to growth. And in order to grow, we need to face some things. Generally, it applies it generally applies some form of struggle, emotionally or otherwise. But what happens then, it forces us to dig our heels deep for our strengths, and oftentimes it gets us out of certain situations. Let me see what else. Yes, so it's commitment to yourself in terms of growth. Committing to facing your negativity is another thing that's being addressed here or implied. It's important for you to commit yourself now to the right things. I said right this way because in spiritual way, there's no right or wrong other than our morals. But anyway, I'm going to move on from that. It's important to know what you are committing yourself to. And if you have continually been, for example, extraordinarily hard on yourself, where you reject yourself often, where you criticize yourself often, that's a commitment you have to yourself. It's a very negative one, but you have one. It's your responsibility to own it in terms of seeing that it's there, and then perhaps commit to a different way of treating yourself in a way that is much more sustainable long term as far as happiness goes, and one that will allow you to feel more proud about yourself. I asked for 2 more cards in regards to what's their advice. 2 of Wands came up and it's in reverse. So this is to me about career. Some of you might be facing choices around career, or some of you have a lot of unknowns about the future. The next card you had is 5 of Cups, 6 of Cups in reverse. This card always talks to me about being stuck in the past, emotionally being tied to your past. For those of you who are in a commitment and you are unsure of the long-term effects of it or the longevity of that commitment, it's important first to address your emotional blockages, to first even figure out where it is that you stand within yourself. Oftentimes, confusion happens when we are unsure where we're at inside, and then we're trying to figure out what's happening on the outside. Again, when we are more sure of ourselves, we have more prosperity coming to us, because being sure of ourselves implies we feel more value about us, we feel stronger, we feel confident, and those are all value components in our life. Is there anything else that I want to say? Make sure you know where your energy goes. Make sure you don't waste your valuable energy. And in terms of wasting valuable energy, if you spend time in negativity, if you spend time in gossip, you are wasting your precious energy. If you are committed to feeling lousy about yourself by continually berating yourself, well, that's another example. That's another example of you get it. Whatever I just said completely just went. And I think that means that I'm cut off now. Okay. Some of you should play some soccer. I don't know why I said that. I just did because I saw it. Or some of you need some sort of exercise, particularly outside, where you need to exert some effort because it'll make you feel good about you. So for some of you, you might want to enter some competitive sports. It could be a beer hockey league, or it could be, a soccer team. Anything that inspires you, anything that keeps you alive, anything that gives you a reason to smile, anything that makes you feel good, providing, obviously, you don't step on others' toes while that's happening. Just kidding. I think you know where I'm getting with this. Some of you need exercise. You need to poke your head out of your walls in order to get some fresh air. When we do not get a lot of fresh air, we also can become complacent and gray and blue and depressed. So if you are someone who is stuck inside, it's important to get your butt out of the house or out of your apartment and face some fresh air. For one, it is good for you. For two, It allows you to breathe in more oxygen that allows your body to relax. And a relaxed body is a body that has a calmer mind. And that's always much more pleasant, especially because some of you are quite anxious. And I think that's all I have. That was a very interesting message. If it makes sense to you, I would love for you to comment. I'd love to read it. As you see, most of this is channeled. Half the time, I don't even know what it is that I'm saying. I just trust you guys will understand this. So sometimes if I pause, it's because my brain is trying to adjust to what's happening. Anyway, I wish you best of luck. I hope you take this as an opportunity to examine some things in your life, particularly ones that you are struggling with. Always, if you are struggling with something, consider how this applies to you. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong, doesn't mean there's anything bad. It simply means that if there is some struggle, perhaps some of what was said applies to you, which will give you an opportunity to think deeper, to open yourself up to other ways of thinking, other ways of being. And at the end of the day, I always say, the moment we shift our perception, our entire life changes. So with that said, I'm going to leave you. Some of you just graduated from something or got offered a job, something. I'm supposed to congratulate those of you who just got offered a job. You completed something important. You graduated. You got some kind of a recognition. I'm supposed to say congratulations, job well done. Okay, and this was in October. I'm seeing the number 10. So for most of you, that was, I believe, in October. And with that said, thank you so much. Thank you for liking, for sharing, for subscribing. If you would like a private session with me, of course, that information is down below. Thank you again so much. I will see you soon. Yes, I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.